What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are excited as me because today I'm going to be walking you through the brand new RGH3 Xbox 360 hack. This is the 2-wire install plus the NAND wires. Super exciting. Can't wait to get into this. We're at the beginning of 2022 here, and this just came out. I figured I'd throw a full tutorial up here on YouTube. Super happy. I can't wait to dive right into this. This is just me on 7 Sins here. There's a bunch of useful diagrams and forums up there if you need any help throughout the process. I'm also going to be walking you through step by step. It's pretty easy. Like I said, 2 wires, optional resistor and diode. This is just me running through Aurora. One of the things you can do with an RGH to Xbox 360. Here's also XEX menu, which is a classic. So yeah, we're going to be getting into this in a second. I can't wait. So the first thing you're going to need here is a JR programmer. And the NAND wires, we're going to have to solder those onto the board there to read the NAND. We're also going to need 30 gauge wire. That's for the 2 wires. We're going to get those on the board there in a minute. And there is the optional resistor, 10K resistor. It's optional. You do not need that. Optional. Also optional is a 1N4148 diode. I believe those resistors and diodes just kind of help with boot times and longevity. So this is me taking apart the 360. I am doing this on a Falcon version, a fat version. And this is just me flying through all the screws here, and in a minute we're going to be soldering on the NAND wires. So there I have my NAND wires in hand with the programmer. I'm just showing that off. And the first thing I'm going to start doing there in a minute is fluxing up the board. But before that, I just want to throw this diagram up, refer back to this diagram for the NAND wires. So you can see me, like I mentioned, fluxing up the board here, getting those points ready for the solder. And then I'm going to grab my soldering iron here and I'm going to start tinning up the board, getting those points, getting a little solder on those points, so we can just put each wire on one by one, no problems. And go ahead, be slow, take your time, there's no rush. You want to get them all on, no bridge connections. I will say this install, when we come to the 2 wires for the actual hack itself, those wires are going to be very sensitive. Not so much these NAND wires. You do want to, don't be sloppy, but especially when it comes to the hack, they're very sensitive. So you want to take your time, make sure the points are nice and clean. You can see me trimming those points up with the scissors, making sure my ends aren't too long. I'm just soldering up those last 2 wires there. And right after this is me just testing the board for continuity, testing for any bridge connections just in case everything checked out okay. It's good to have a multimeter on hand if you have one. So now we're flipping the board over and we're going to start the actual hack itself. So this diagram, you're going to want to pay attention to this diagram. So we have post 1 right at the bottom here, this white wire. We have post 1 going to SMC post 1. This is the white wire here. Coming off of SMC post 1 is where you would put the optional diode. Again, it's optional. You don't need the diode, but it does help. I would recommend it. You're going to want to put the minus side towards post 1. So that's post 1 going to SMC post 1. And more importantly, we have PLL, this red wire here, going down to SMC PLL. So that SMC PLL from PLL, SMC PLL is on the other side of the board. So in a second here, I'm going to show you an alternate point that makes it a little bit easier so you don't have to go around the board, but this is the recommended wiring route. Again, like I said, it's 2 wires, and even in this picture, they don't have the resistor, they don't have the diode, but the install I'm doing today, I'm going to be adding both of those just because I want to make sure my 360 is done properly. But again, you don't need them. You will be able to run unsigned code without the resistor and diode, just with this setup right here. But pay attention to this diagram. So this is the alternate SMC PLL point I was talking about. It's right above FT2R2, one of the old points we would use for the Cool Runner chip. So right above FT2R2 is that alternate point, that alternate SMC PLL point. And that's what I'm going to be using in this video today, as I won't have to go around the board. So you can see me fluxing up those spots there, and I'm going to start with this post wire down here. And that's going to SMC post 1 up at the top there. And then that's me getting my resistor ready for the PLL portion of it. And that's me soldering the resistor to the alternate point of the PLL. And I will say the yellow side of the resistor is facing left. And that's me soldering the wire from PLL to SMC PLL. So you can see the route that I took right there. And you can see my resistor right there. And I'm actually going to go back. I didn't add the diode in yet, but I'm going to go back and add that diode in right there. So that's post going up to SMC post 1. That's PLL going over to the alternate PLL point. And this is me. I would recommend just cleaning off the board once you're done with some rubbing alcohol and a toothbrush, as a lot of flux can be a little bit corrosive and actually damage your board over time. Be careful, you don't want to mess up your brand new soldered connections. And then we're going to take our fan motor and our RFD board, our power button board there, up to the bench, and we're going to give this a test. Put your fan on. And we're actually going to take the JR programmer and we're going to plug that up to the NAND wire, but you're also going to want to have standby power going, so you're going to want to have the 360 plugged in to HDMI and power, but you're not going to want to turn it on. And then you're going to plug in your JR programmer first and then plug it into the computer like I'm doing right here. So we have the 360 hooked up to power and we have the NAND reader going to the computer. And this is where we're going to open our JR programmer program, JRunner. We're going to open that up, and the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to read our NAND twice. So there's a little option on the left corner where you can select 2 NAND reads, and then the first thing you're going to want to do once everything's hooked up is you're going to want to click Read NAND, and you're going to want to make sure you read it twice. And what that's going to do is that's going to verify that the NANDs are the same, and then that's going to give us the ability to back up the NAND files. So if anything goes wrong, we can restore. If anything goes wrong with the glitch, we can restore back to factory settings pretty much if anything goes wrong. So this is going through my first read there. I have this sped up. It's going to take a little bit, especially if you have a big block Jasper. This is just a Falcon, so it's going rather quick. That's my second read there. And it's about to finish up, and it says NANDs are the same. So that's what we're looking for. NANDs are the same. So as long as it says NANDs are the same, there's going to be a folder. You're going to want to click Show Working Folder right where I just clicked. And you're going to copy those 2 NAND dumps and paste those into a folder. You're going to copy those from your working folder and paste those onto your desktop into a folder and just keep those as backup. Just keep those files backed up on your computer in case you never know when you're going to have to restore. So those are good to have. So now that those files are backed up, we still have our NAND reader plugged in. We're going to now make sure in the corner over there, it's set to glitch 2, RGH 3, and I'd recommend starting with 27 megahertz. And then you're going to click Create ECC and then Write ECC. And that's going to write Zell to the 360. So this is just finishing that up. Again, make sure glitch 2 RGH3 27 megahertz is selected. If 27 megahertz isn't giving you boot, if you're having troubles with booting, I'd recommend trying the 10 megahertz after that. But we just loaded that on, so we click Create ECC and then Write ECC. After we selected RGH3 27 megahertz, glitch 2. And this is me booting up the 360 here. You can see that we did get a successful boot. And if you did everything right and your wires are good, it will boot into Zell Reloaded. So that is a great sign when Zell Reloaded pops up. And we're going to let that do its thing for a second and load out. Once this loads out to the bottom there, that is going to give us our CPU key. So there is a long key. It says right there, your CPU key. You're going to want to take that key and you're going to want to type that in to JRunner, right where it says CPU key. And I forgot to mention, when you do turn your 360 on, trying to boot into Zell, make sure that your programmer is not plugged into the 360. You don't want to burn up your programmer. So now that we have our CPU key in there, the next step is going to be to create the XE build image. So we're going to hook back up our JR programmer to the 360 and to the computer. We're going to click Create XE build image. JRunner is going to run some code there for a second. And then once it runs that code, we're still going to want to make sure glitch 2 and 27 megahertz is selected with the RGH3 selection. After you click Create XE build image, we're going to want to write the NAND. So we're creating the XE build image with the glitch 2, RGH3, 27 meg, and then we're going to write NAND. And you can see my NAND is being written there. And then you're going to unplug your programmer again. Once that's unplugged, I just booted up my 360 there. And if you're successful, it will boot to dashboard. And that's it, guys. That's as easy as it gets for these RGH, this brand new RGH hack. This 2-wire install, optional resistor, optional diode. That's me, an XEX menu showing off that it works. This is great. I will say, don't get discouraged if it doesn't work your first time. If for some reason you're not booting Zell, something's not going right, your 360 is shutting itself off, go back and check your soldering. Like I said, this glitch is very sensitive, so definitely double, triple check your soldering. Make sure, try it without the diode, try it without the resistor. It will work with just the 2 wires, but I would recommend trying the diode and the resistor first on your first go around. Again, don't get discouraged. For example, this Falcon I did was having some booting issues, and all I can recommend is keep going back, keep checking your wiring, and eventually you may be able to get a perfect instant boot, but it is very tough. I have been reading up on the forums, and I have seen some people also having issues with power issues and booting issues. And I think what that comes down to is the resistors and diodes. I still have a few questions about that myself. I still don't have it down to a science. I have some consoles that are booting instantly. I have some that are giving some troubles. I might try some different resistors and some different diodes, and I think that might solve the issue. It seems to be hit or miss. And this is still, like I said, a brand new hack, so I think there's a lot of questions to be answered. I'll be reading up on those forums weekly, keeping up to date on that. But I mean, in some cases, a cool runner chip might still be a valuable option, depending on what your preferences are. And I guess it just depends on what you want for your console, but I do think this brand new RGH hack is amazing. It's very simple, it's very simplistic, and from what I see, from the installs I've done, it does seem to be very reliable and very easy to do. So that's pretty much it. Pretty much wrapping up here. Thanks for watching this video. This is the brand new RGH3 2022 tutorial. Again, my name is James. Comment down below, like this video, comment, subscribe. More RGH hack videos to come. Stay posted, stay tuned. See you later. Bye.